Hi, my name is Effie Spence, and welcome to my channel, Actorholics, all things acting related. In this very first episode, we are going to get started with the basics before we talk about scene study and script breakdowns and how to get an agent and all that. We're just going to start talking about where to live. So, a big question that you young actors might have, or young and old, because you can get started at any time, there's a role for everybody, is where do I move? Do I go to live the Big Apple dream, or do I go to La La Land? Do I go to Georgia, where there's a lot of films happening? Do I go to Albuquerque, where the competition's lower? Um, they're all good choices, honestly. And it all depends on what you want to get out of it. So we'll start with New York City. So in New York, you will find a great passion for hard work. It's the energy of the city, it's the vibe of the place. Like, everybody's going somewhere. It's kind of cliche, but it is, you know, where you go to get a little bit hardened. If you're a musical theater person, it's fantastic. If you are a model or have thought about crossing over into that industry, it's a great option. There's a ton of agencies out there, and then as far as TV and film, it's not as saturated as a place like Los Angeles, or even I'm gonna just fix that. It's not as saturated as Los Angeles, but in New York you'll definitely find lots of casting going on. And if you want that kind of big city life with access to really fantastic training and different schools, which we'll get into in the next episode, where to train, then New York is for you. If you don't like winter like me, because I'm from the East Coast, but and you know, for a bit I wanted to do that kind of like the subway thing, getting my coffee and going to casting calls and doing the New York thing. I just like hate winter, so I just decided. I actually decided to go to Australia first. I was lucky enough that I had family members that I could stay with. So, for where to live, I would say it very much depends on your situation. But the number one thing that you want as an actor is flexibility. So that means lowering housing costs as much as you can, prioritizing your career as much as you can, because if you don't prioritize it, no one's gonna give it to you. But I hope it does. I hope that I'm wrong, because I would love for someone to give it to me. Hello. Um, but you really want to move where you feel like you'll find your people. So I moved to Australia when I first started acting professionally, trying to go out for casting and get agents and all that about 10 years ago. So it was just after I graduated from the University of Vermont. And I decided on Australia because a lot of my friends and family that I kind of already had established were there. So I already had like a little bit of a safety network and a bubble. Um, and I realized that a lot of my favorite directors and a lot of my favorite actors are from Australia. So I kind of wanted to sniff around and see what it was like and do something kind of wild before moving to Los Angeles, which I knew that I would always end up moving to. And so for me in Australia, it's with this work study visa, so anyone can do it. And I honestly highly recommend doing something like that if you want to go train and do a year abroad at RADA. Like, do any sort of summer course. So where to live, I would say, is determinant upon um, where do you feel inspired by. Um, and so for me, it was Australia because, like I said, I had a lot of my favorite actors and a lot of my favorite directors were from there, and I just wanted to see what it was about. And I ended up working as a Bollywood dancer, which was really fun and really cool. I wrote my first play there. I starred in a few little indie things, and I got to work on Neighbours for one day, so I kind of got to tick all the boxes of like working in Australian cinema and nailed an Australian accent. Um, so I would recommend living where you feel like you'll be the most enriched and where you financially can. So now on to moving to Los Angeles. I could do an entire episode on this, which I probably will do, about the different neighborhoods to live in LA, accessibility, where I find like the most artist hubs, where I've had celebrity sightings and stuff, which is always fun because they're always so much smaller than you anticipate. Which, as a 5'1" woman, I'm like, yes, yes, these are my people. So Los Angeles feels like a place that you'll eventually have to go to if you really want this. If you really want this thing, you see yourself on the silver screen, you want to be on television, you want to do commercial. Living in LA is like swimming in the ocean, and you just have a raft, and you have to have faith that you will find your island, where all your collaborators are, and where all your luck is, and where all the food is, and the sustenance and stuff. But in the meantime, you're just in the deep blue, just kind of going with the waves. So LA, even though we get this sort of rap for being like very, very soft and very much into astrology, which I think after about a year and a half, you know your entire astrological chart of living in LA, mostly from people telling you. But you gotta really be tough. You have to really figure out what you want out of acting and how you're gonna get it, and not listen to any naysayers. So living in LA is for anyone who wants to just know that any coffee shop that they go into, that people are working in their industry. That's something that's really different about living in Los Angeles, is that we are all here for this. I'm like always really surprised when I meet someone at a party or at an event or something, and I'm like, oh, what do you do? And they say, I'm an electrician. And it's just like, what? Or recently I met someone who works for NASA. And you just almost forget that people have like real jobs. And not that acting's not a real job, of course, but that they have to go into an office, and that's their life's work, and it's not just their side hustle. So living at home still is another great option. So if you're super, super new to acting and moving feels really daunting, then we have access like to so much more mediums than ever before. It's not like back in the 40s where you'd have to just get on a train and just go to the big city and you know, sign with one studio, and that was it. Your whole career was set up for you, and they changed your name, and flexibility to not be in the most, one of the most expensive cities, and just working on your craft, which there are places like YouTube, like, et voila, where you can really start to dig and understand who you are and what you are as an actor, what you bring to the table before you even make that move. So the pros and cons of staying at home, whether you are in a situation where you can live with your parents, or you live with your college roommates still, or it's just you feel like maybe you're not accessing the big pools of casting, you can still sign up for casting sites and apply as if you're in LA. I've done that a bunch of times. And fake it till you make it, baby. Just fucking lie. If you really have an opportunity, like let's say if you're in Michigan and you're applying for roles in Chicago, and you're applying for roles in New York or LA or Georgia or whatever, every morning you wake up, you have your coffee or your tea, and you just apply to anything. You never know what auditions you'll land and what opportunities you'll get. And if it's, if you get this great TV opportunity, I guarantee you will find a way to get there. You will just sell everything, to make that happen. I currently live in Burbank, which is Media City.